I hate cock. While at school, the only subject that really held my... Excuse me, let's try that again. While at school, the only subject that really held my attention was science, and more specifically, chemistry. Not me. This is Dave, who wrote today's episode. I did not enjoy chemistry. Chemistry was always boring. I feel like it's not a boring subject. It's just I feel like I always had boring chemistry teachers, which made the subject boring. Though I was not particularly interested in the various chemical formulas, I was interested in learning which chemicals would make the best explosions when combined. Fortunately for me, I had a legendary chemistry teacher who appeared to be more than happy to discuss such topics after class. Having observed what happens when you combine a tiny amount of sodium with water, some friends and I decided to find out what would happen if you wrapped a large lump of sodium in magnesium ribbon and dropped it in a toilet. After borrowing the necessary supplies from the science prep office one lunchtime, we found an unoccupied toilet and carried out our experiment. Oh my god, that toilet's gonna blow the fuck up. Is that sodium gonna ignite the magnesium strips? That's just going to be wild, Dave. The results were, shall we say, rather interesting. The resulting fire was so hot that the back of the toilet shattered, causing a not insignificant flood. Knowing a little more about chemistry now than I did then, I'm still not exactly sure why this happened. When I tried a similar experiment in my early 20s, the reaction was far less entertaining. Although this particular instance, a few people doing something just to see what would happen, was not particularly dangerous, history is littered with examples of instances that were. And in today's episode, we'll take a look at some of those. So put on your gloves and safety glasses so you can safely examine some of history's most dangerous experiment. Not necessary. You'll be fine. You can't be hurt through the screen. You can only be hurt by words. And it can really hurt. Like the comments. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Guatemalan STD study. There's not a government in the world that has not, at some point, engaged in exceptionally questionable behavior with regards to how it treats either its own citizens or the citizens of other countries. Dave, excuse me. Except for North Korea, who are amazing. This video brought to you by the DPRK. This particular example involves both the United States government and the government of the Republic of Guatemala. In 1946, Public Health Service investigators, in a study funded by the National Institutes of Health, engaged in a series of despicable and dangerous experiments. The purpose of these experiments was to study the effects of sexually transmitted infections. I know this one. This is the one where they're purposefully infecting people with like syphilis and shit, right?
I mean, the clue is in the name.
And then they're like, oh, no, we need a control group. So we're not going to treat some of them. We're just going to let syphilis ravage their bodies. It's fucked up, government. At this point, I'm sure you're wondering, did they fully inform the participants of the risks? Did they give the participants the choice of whether or not they took part? Did they provide copious financial compensation to those who participated? And sadly, the answer is a resounding no.
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
What they did instead was deliberately and secretly infect over 5,000 vulnerable individuals with various diseases. These vulnerable individuals included children, orphans, child and adult prostitutes, Guatemalan Indians, leprosy patients, mental patients, prisoners, and soldiers, which is it's all kinds of fucked up, isn't it? But surely the tests were carried out in sterile conditions with patients either being given tablets to swallow or pinprick injections. I get the feeling that they were doing it with like brothels and shit, weren't they? I think you know where I'm going with this, but just in case, the answer is absolutely no. I have previously been accused of bringing down the expected jollity of these videos with graphic descriptions, so I shall include only one.
Listen very carefully. I shall say this only once.
Dave, this is such a downer. The last episode I recorded was about companies that still exist that you didn't think so. And it was just a jolly rhombus, and now it's like, oh no, people's penises are falling off in Guatemala because of the American government. You're like, what? No, Dave, no. Nobody likes cock rot, Dave. The following is a brief description taken from a report on the treatment of those individuals. Experts have described it as fairly typical. Berta was a female patient at the psychiatric hospital. Her age and the illness that brought her to the hospital are unknown. In February 1948, Berta was injected in her left arm with syphilis.
And what a great and heartwarming thing it is.
Just before we get into today's video, a word from our fantastic sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the ultimate all-in-one website for anyone looking to stand out and succeed online, whether you're a budding entrepreneur or managing a booming brand already, Squarespace is here to make your online life easier. Yes, Squarespace offers a ton of fantastic features, and the standout for me is absolutely their Fluid engine. It's a bit of a magic wand for web design. It's like drag and drop, except drag and drop's already amazing, and Fluid engine is just ridiculously easy. Plus, flexible website templates are the perfect outfit for your website. Start with a pro template, customize it to fit your style, and add any feature you want. Your site, your rules. It looks amazing on any device. At Squarespace just have dropped courses. You can now create and sell an online course. Start with a pro layout, upload videos, customize it with the Fluid engine editor, and set your price. Turn your knowledge into income with Squarespace courses. So here's the deal. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch your online empire, go to squarespace.com/blaze to save an incredible 10% off your first website or domain purchase using the promo code BLAZE. There's a link in the description below, and now back to today's video. A month later, she developed scabies, an itchy skin infection caused by a mite. Oh, I was like, wait, isn't that the one about lemons? And I'm like, no, that's scurvy. That's that sailor's disease. Several weeks later, lead investigator Dr. John Cutler noted that she had also developed red bumps where injected.
I'm having a stroke up here.
Where her arm had been injected, lesions on her arms and legs, and her skin was beginning to waste away from her body. Berta was not treated for syphilis until 3 months after her injection. Soon after, on August the 23rd, Dr. Cutler wrote that Berta appeared as if she was going to die, but did not specify why. I'll tell you why, John. It's because you're a douchebag. That same day, he put gonorrhea pus from another male subject into both of Berta's eyes, as well as in her urethra and rectum. Bro, you up to some Joseph Mengele shit. Like, what the fuck? He also reinfected, what the fuck? With syphilis. She's already got her skin's falling off, John. What the fuck?
And then it got worse.
Several days later, Berta's eyes were filled with pus from the gonorrhea and she was bleeding from her urethra. On August the 27th, Berta died. You fucking fuck you! You sick fuck! You Joseph Mengele motherfucker!
I can't believe you pissed him off. I didn't piss him off. You pissed him off.
Although the initial point of this study was allegedly to test the value of different medications, including the antibiotic penicillin and the arsenical agent Orvus metfarsin, it appears that in reality, the majority of these people were simply tortured to death. Yeah, dude, if you're gonna test the medications, how about you give them the fucking medications? It's like, oh yeah, what did you do to help her with her syphilis? Oh, we rubbed gonorrhea in her anus. What the fuck? Especially as only about half of them were ever treated for the diseases with which they were infected. Now, as fucked up as it is, there's obviously a scientific basis for that.
I wouldn't go that far.
Because it's called a control group. Doesn't make it any more right, just makes it somehow like... There's no excuse for this. I'm sorry, I was going to say like it makes it somehow have a scientific merit, but it fucking doesn't. It's disgusting.
Oh, the humanity! Anyway.
In 2010, Barack Obama, who seemed to spend a large majority of his presidency apologizing for shit that America did in the past, broke out his apology face again and used it to apologize to the then president of Guatemala for America's part in the study. As far as I've been able to ascertain, little has been done to compensate survivors or their families. The monster study. Usually when we think of dangerous experiments, we tend to focus on physical danger, explosions, injecting people with diseases, rubbing gonorrhea in people's eyes, maybe. However, there are various types of danger, as the monster study proved. So what was it? In 1936, at the University of Iowa, Dr. Wendell Johnson decided to conduct an experiment to determine whether stuttering among young children was a learned behavior or a biological issue. Being a lifelong stutterer himself, he had dedicated his research to finding a cure. Although the intentions behind the study were fairly well-meaning, the way he went about it would cause long-lasting psychological harm to participants. As you may have already guessed, the participants were not well-informed, willing individuals. Johnson simply contacted his local orphanage and asked to borrow a few children for a speech study.
One boy for sale.
Without bothering to find out what the study might entail, the orphanage allocated 22 children and allowed Johnson to begin testing. Responsible orphanaging there, right there, isn't it? It's like, yeah, you got any kids for experiments? Dude, take your pick, there's hundreds! Johnson and his team divided the team into two groups, both containing stuttering and non-stuttering children. Seems okay so far, doesn't it? But let's continue. The first group was labeled normal speakers, and the second, stutterers, despite both groups containing both types of children. Now, this is where the psychological abuse began. Those in the first group, regardless of their abilities, were constantly praised for their excellent speech, whether or not it was indeed excellent. This treatment was reversed with the second group. Perfectly well-spoken children were consistently told that they had a stutter, criticized, and in some cases punished for not making an effort to speak more clearly. They were generally made to feel terrible for a condition they could neither control nor actually had. But what were the results? The first group, those labelled as normal speakers, appeared to be largely unaffected. One of the 11 children made slight progress with their speech, but apart from that, there were no lasting effects. However, the second group was not as fortunate. As you'll be shocked and stunned to learn, psychologically abusing children for something they did not control Something they did not control did not, in fact, improve the situation. It's shocking news, isn't it? Moreover, at least 5 of the children, some as young as 5 years old, who entered the study with no speech problems at all, went on to develop new problems. Some began stuttering, some became very withdrawn, and at least one stopped speaking altogether. The results of the study were not properly made public until 2001, but even back then, the researchers understood how much damage they had done. Barack Obama went on to apologize. No, he didn't. I just made that up. I just pretended it was in there, but it wasn't. Also, if someone was like, dude, do you want to be, as a 7-year-old, in the stuttering study, or do you want to have gonorrhea rubbed in your anus? And I'll be like, stuttering. I'll take the stuttering thing, because gonorrhea in my anus and then death. Fuck that. I'm not saying this is ethical either, and it's worse, because the fact that children are involved is makes it worse. But not. Because the previous experiment was, again, rubbing gonorrhea in people's anuses. And then they died. It's extremely fucked up.
Hail science!
One member of the team wrote, "I believe that in time they will recover, but we certainly made an impression on them." That's some psycho shit. If you ever find yourself writing something down like that, just be like, wait, am I the psycho? I was having a comment. I feel like this was quite a funny thing. At least I thought it was funny. No one else will ever find it funny. I was like, yo, if someone ever tells you grey is their favorite color, put them on that list. Put them on the list with the people who torture children and stuff, because that just means they're a psycho. Most of the children in the second group would suffer long-term effects. One of the children even ran away from the orphanage and later said that the study had completely ruined her life. Not like having gonorrhea rubbed in your anus.
Will you please stop saying that?
But when the experiment was made public in 2001, the university issued a formal apology and later was forced to pay out more than $1 million in compensation. Per victim or just to everyone? Because if that's to everyone, that's not enough money. And if it's per victim, it's not enough money.
If you were a loved one was diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be entitled to financial compensation.
The Aversion Project. This might be a controversial statement, and I'm sure I shall get some criticism about it in the comment section, but broadly speaking, it has never been a better time to be alive for those who are labelled as different. Is that controversial? The past was the worst series, because we all know it's true. Let's not talk about prehistory or really back in the day, but let's just talk about the last few hundred years. In countries that you're in, most likely, I think this is true. Let's not get super specific and be like Afghanistan post-US withdrawal for women, but in general, it's a better time to be weird than ever before. Right? And I don't mean weird in a negative way, I just mean different. However that is, probably people are not accepting enough, but they're more accepting than before. Not only is technology, and the older people get, the more they die. And the older people, I don't know, my grandparents would sometimes say something and it's that sounds a bit racist, doesn't it? Doesn't it, Grandma? You shouldn't make that joke anymore, Grandma. And I wouldn't say this because I'm young and a kid. But you're that doesn't seem right. But the good news, they're all dead now. I mean, it's not good that my grandparents are dead, but societally, it kind of is, because they all die off and they have these old opinions that are stupid and racist, and now they're not around anymore. And my generation will grow up and we're mostly less racist.
Mostly.
And that's nice, and sexist, and all of the other shit that's bad. Not only has technology allowed many people with disabilities, including myself, to work in fields that they would not have been allowed to consider working in 30 years ago. Not me, Dave. I'm not disabled. I don't think. Sometimes I think my brain is disabled because holy shit, have you seen the show? It's a mess.
A scalding hot mess.
Dave's blind, by the way. I guess he's going to mention that in a second. In the past, blind people were allowed to be piano tuners and not much else. Really?
Go ahead, relax. Let the energy flow. Let the magic happen.
That kind of... yeah, because... Dave, do you have really good hearing or is that just a stereotype? I don't know. I'm sorry. Is that offensive? I don't know. Do blind people have good hearing? I just want to know.
Listen. You smell something?
But different sexualities are also much more widely accepted. While there is still a long way to go, things like Project Aversion show us just how far we've come. So what was this experiment? Let's start with the army colonel and psychologist Aubrey Levin. Levin ran a psychological ward for soldiers during the South African apartheid regime. Already not a strong start. Although he often treated soldiers who actually needed psychological help, he was already also keen to deal with another problem that he believed plagued the army: homosexuals. Oh no! Not in the army! He encouraged both military leaders and chaplains to send anybody whom they believed to be afflicted with his condition to the hospital, where they were subjected to a variety of experiments that Levin believed would cure them of their problem. These experiments included forcing gay men to look at naked pictures of other men and then delivering brutal electric shocks in order to rehabilitate their brains, as well as forced sedation, chemical castration, and, should all this somehow fail to work, forced sex change operations.
No! No!
Bruh. It's like, okay, so what's happening? Oh, yeah, well, we showed him these pictures of naked men while giving him an electric shock. It didn't work, so he cut his dick off. Bro.
Not anymore.
I'll just be like, yeah, no, I love women. I love women. It worked. I hate cock. Not only has this sort of therapy been proven to be ineffective and psychologically dangerous, shocking, there are several reports of patients being given so many different drugs that they fucking died. According to one Guardian article, one gay soldier, Gene Erasmus, was chemically castrated by Dr. Levin at Bloemfontein Psychiatric Hospital in 1980. Before he committed suicide in 1999, Erasmus recorded a tape detailing the broader abuse of homosexuals in the army, including how he was forced by his officers to participate in the gang rape of Angolan women, and how other gay soldiers were given hormone drugs.
Well, he's dead.
Dude, this episode's all kind of fucked up. I don't even like it.
I don't like it.
I don't like it because I want to. It's Brain Blaze. It's supposed to be my break from the horror that is the Casual Criminalist. I'm going to record after this. I should have done it the other way around, although I shouldn't with today's episode. I'm going to need to record like a palate cleanser Brain Blaze after this fucking disaster. Perhaps the worst part of this experiment was that after it was closed down, many of its victims had undergone partial sex change operations and were simply abandoned by the army. Levin, who would eventually become the chief psychiatrist for the entire South African military, eventually fled to Canada after he was pre-warned by the Truth and Reconciliation Committee that he would be named as an abuser of human rights. So he fled to Canada? Like, Canada's going to be one of those people who are like, yeah, you got to flee to like Lebanon or Afghanistan, where they don't give a shit about that kind of thing. Not Canada. It's Canada. They're nice, other than exporting tons of asbestos but not using it themselves. Don't do that, Canada. It's naughty.
Sorry.
He still claims he did nothing wrong, saying that he only moved to Canada due to South Africa's rising crime rates. It's like, why did you flee to Argentina, Nazi? Oh, I just like the weather. It's much nicer down there. It's got nothing to do with the Nuremberg trials. Definitely not. I was not doing anything in the Nazis. That's not even a Nazi. I'm not even German. When asked about what he had done, he said nobody was held against his or her will. We did not keep human guinea pigs like Russian communists. We only had patients who wanted to be cured and were there voluntarily. When asked about the electric shock therapy, he said nobody was given electric shock treatment by me. What was practiced was aversion therapy. We caused slight, very slight pain in the arm by contracting the muscles using an electronic device. Tell you what, mate, that sounds a lot like electrocuting somebody, doesn't it? Although electrocuting somebody, I think technically means electrocuting them to death, so maybe he was actually correct? What did he say? Electric shock therapy. You're giving people electric shocks, mate. What are you talking about?
Mesothelioma is a rare cancer linked to asbestos exposure. Call now.
Not only have many people testified that this is not true, the damage caused by his homophobic experiments is still very much affecting his former victims to this day. The Trinity Experiment. Possibly the most dangerous experiment ever conducted, the Trinity Experiment would pave the way for both the first use of a nuclear device during wartime and the development of nuclear warheads by the 9 countries around the world that currently possess them. Just out of interest, I wonder how many of those countries Simon can name. Let's fucking go. Okay. I think I'm going to get most of these. America, the United Kingdom, France. Okay, I've got 3.
It looks like we're gonna be here for a while.
I got 3. I'm going to take my time. Can figure this out. I feel like there's another European power, but let's just not do that one for right now. We'll go Russia. We'll go North Korea. We'll go Israel. We'll go India. we'll go Pakistan, and we'll go South Africa, but not anymore. 9. I'll put the answer at the bottom of this entry. But first, I'm excited, Dave. But first, let's look at how this experiment was conducted. On the 16th of July 1945, at a site located 210 miles south of Los Alamos, New Mexico, a plutonium implosion device mounted on top of a 100-foot tall tower was detonated. This device, which released 18.6 kilotons of energy, completely vaporized the tower and turned the surrounding sand to glass. According to afnwc.af.mil. The website is that? Oh, it's got to be like an Air Force military. AFNWC. Okay, whatever, let's just move on. Reports from witnesses came from as far as 200 miles away. A forest ranger 150 miles west of the blast said he saw saw a flash of fire, an explosion, and black smoke. An individual 150 miles north said the explosion lighted up the sky like the sun. But why was it so dangerous? I mean, it was right out in the middle of the desert, wasn't it? Well, yes. However, if we set aside the fact that radioactive particles traveled some 30 miles from the blast site, causing, among other things, serious problems for some livestock, the real danger lay in the fact that nobody was 100% sure what would happen. Anybody? Oh, was this the one where they were like, might ignite the atmosphere? Who knows? And then there's the end of everything.
Science!
Anybody who has the patience to sit through the newly released film Oppenheimer, I am literally watching that right now. I'm like 25, I was watching it with my wife the other night, and we're like, yes, let's finally watch Oppenheimer. 25 minutes in, and one of my kids is like, Mom! Because they're asleep and they're in a nightmare or something, and then they wouldn't calm down, and so we're 25 minutes into Oppenheimer. I'm sure we'll finish it over the course of the next, 6 weeks. It was very good so far.
This would be catastrophic!
Are we saying there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world?
Might remember that an army engineer expressed concerns that the detonation may destroy the world. In actual fact, these were the concerns of Manhattan Project physicist Edward Teller. Teller believed that there was a possibility that the heat of the explosion would cause the hydrogen in the atmosphere to undergo fusion. This had the potential to set off a catastrophic chain reaction that would quite literally set the entire Earth's atmosphere ablaze. Obviously, we now know that this didn't happen. Not only that, due to further research on the subject, we now know that it was in fact impossible. However, it does raise an interesting point. Given that one of the lead scientists on the project believed that it was a possibility, it just goes to show how desperate the USA was to develop nuclear weapons technology and gain an upper hand in the war that appeared to some people as if it would never end. I'm fairly sure that if it were up to me to press the button, and I was aware that there was even the slightest concern that it might set the air on fire, I would not have considered the risk to be worth taking. It certainly puts the experiment that my friends and I conducted in that toilet into perspective. Now, before I bring an episode to a close, the 9 countries, which I totally got: Russia, the United States, France, China. Oh, okay, because I guess South Africa's not going to be included because they don't have them anymore. I guess I would have got China, right? It's kind of the big one. One of the big ones. United Kingdom, Pakistan, India, Israel, and North Korea. It's France. Oh yeah, France is in there. Okay, how many did you get right, Simon? Well, I missed China, but I got South Africa, even though they don't have them anymore. I don't know, do I get the points?
No.
Who knows? Speaking of points, we do quizzes weekly on the Discord. Are you a member of the Discord? If you're not, you should be. Get on the Discord. There's a link below. We do a weekly live stream. Also, it's if you don't want to do my crazy European hours, I do it 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know what that is America time. It's probably really early. Actually, it's probably just in the morning. It's probably fine. Skip work. Come along. But if you don't, you can become a member of this channel and you can watch an edited version every week, which I'm sure you will love. I get humiliated in quizzes like that. Thanks for being here.
Ah!